My name is Becky Brooks. I know some of you on the call, but for those of you who don't know me, I am the president of the Alliance for Women in Media and our foundation. We are very excited about this program that we are launching in partnership with the ICF Foundation. What we know is the value of coaching and the importance that that serves to find an ICF certified coach to support individuals both professionally and personally. So bringing this program to our members is a really important step for AWM, for the Alliance for Women in Media, especially after a really tumultuous year, specifically in media and certainly in many industries. So this is a perfect time for us to be introducing this program. So with that, Latanya, am I turning it over to you, I think, from here?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining today. So I will actually be introducing our speakers for today. Today we have Brian Powell with us, and he is an ambassador of the ICF Foundation. Welcome, Brian. And then we also have Lisa, who is also with the ICF Foundation and is also an ambassador. Lisa, I didn't want to butcher your last name, so feel free to correct me, but welcome aboard, Lisa. And then we also
Thank
have
you.
Monica, who is from the San Francisco Bay Area Coaches Chapter, and she will be the project lead for that chapter. So thank you all for being here today and welcome.
Thank you so much. We're very, very excited to be partnering with the Alliance. We know that, like many industries, your industry has really been through the ringer, and it is just really amazing how the circumstances came together for this partnership to happen, and specifically for us to connect up with one of the ICF chapters in California, where you obviously have a lot of members. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do today, and then we'll kind of jump in, and we're going to start with an icebreaker. So be prepared to talk in just a minute. So we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of the ICF Foundation, our mission, our vision, what we do, and the impact of coaching. Then Brian's going to talk a little bit about what coaching is, define it for you, and what it isn't, importantly, and what the expectations are for coaching, the coaching relationship from the client side and the coach side. Then Monica, our project lead, who's going to be recruiting all of the amazing coaches from her chapter, is going to talk about the process for matching clients and coaches, and give you some practical advice on how to choose a coach, because you will have some opportunity to have a say in who you're being coached by, which is fabulous. Then Brian's going to talk a little bit about how the coaching process actually works, like what you can expect when you're going through a coaching session. And then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about what's going to happen during the 4 to 6 month period that you're going to be working with a coach. And then we'll wrap up with some next steps and some questions. So any questions before we get started? Okay, then I'm going to start with a question. And the question is, what excites you about partnering with a coach? Or if you're not yet excited, and I hope that you will be by the end of our hour together, what brought you here today? What made you curious about coaching? Anyone willing to come off mute and share?
I'll share.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, I'm Monica. Yeah, I have used coaches before. I think what excites me about partnering with a coach and working with one over a course of time is it helps clarify your goals. And I think it's not therapy. It's actionable insights so that you can meet those goals. And really, I think helping you kind of see clearly into the mirror of what you're actually doing, and without any of like our own rose-colored glasses filters to really address what's needed. And that's what I appreciate about it.
Nice. And Brian is sitting there like, oh, okay, I don't even have to present. Thank you very much.
I think I've got it covered for sure. That's awesome.
Right? Yeah, that was a really amazing understanding of coaching, because I think sometimes, professional coaching can be kind of confusing to people. What is it exactly? And especially that differentiation between other modalities like therapy. Anyone else? Latanya, how about you, or Becky? Just some comments on why you brought us together. Anything additional?
Well, like Becky said, and I'm sorry, I'm Latanya. I'm the awards and project manager for the Alliance for Women in Media. So during this tumultuous year, we kind of wanted to find a way for us to kind of help our members. And so when we were thinking like, what could we actually do? When we found out about this opportunity, we thought that we could basically help our members. When you are backed against the wall and things change unexpectedly, you might want to take a look at your goals and make sure that you're set up, for success moving forward. But during that time of, solitude, you might have also thought like, what else can I be doing? Or, what else do I want to do? How do I get there? So when I found out about this program, we thought it was great to even just offer this opportunity to our members. So this is very enlightening, and I look forward to seeing, how this all plays out.
Thanks, Latanya. And you really hit on something important there. I think people often come to coaching either, well, we've heard the phrase through desperation or inspiration, right? And, or both, right? Because when we're going through tumultuous times, there's a little bit of both of that going on. It's like we're going through change and uncertainty, and that can be really uncomfortable. And yet, when we're willing to really lean into it, we can see what opportunities are there. And coaching is really a remarkable and powerful a vehicle for bringing that out. So let's talk a little bit about what the ICF is, and particularly the foundation. So the International Coaching Federation is the largest and most impactful global professional organization for professional coaches in the world. We have over 50,000 member coaches throughout the world. And the foundation for which is a separate nonprofit organization, was founded in 2005 to help bring some really important initiatives to life and create a platform and foundation for things like scholarship programs to help people who are wanting to get into the coaching profession to do that. And it has really taken off in relation to our low bono and pro bono social impact projects. And we're doing all kinds of interesting projects with the Obama Foundation. I think we worked with UNICEF. I'm working with getting a women's leadership initiative going with the American Red Cross organization Glow Red to help cultivate more women leaders in the Red Cross and Red Crescent leadership throughout the world. So we're doing some really interesting things. And the idea around social impact is that when we support leaders and professionals that are already having an impact, and we're helping them have, and their teams and their organizations, be more effective, more efficient, higher well-being. We're helping to amplify the impact of those individuals, teams, and organizations. And for Brian, myself, and Monica, I mean, we are so passionate about our work. We're passionate about our profession, like probably you all are. But we're even more passionate, I think, about being part of this initiative, which is called the Ignite Initiative, because of that amplification of impact. When we look at ICF as an organization, our professional organization, our mission is to advance coaching excellence, impact, and value worldwide. And our vision is a world where coaching is integral in transforming societies. The next slide, I think, provides a definition of, actually the next slide, sorry about that, provides a definition of social impact. And I think what's unique about, one of the things that's unique about what we're doing is, we're really looking at measurable outcomes. So even through your coaching experience, you'll have some pre-surveys and post-surveys so that we can really make sure that the experience that you're having is really making a difference. And like I said, that happens on an individual level, a team level, and organizational level. And when we do that at scale, then we're able to make profound change on a more systematic level and really impact systems. And again, that goes back to focusing in large part on leaders and people who are working in high impact industries, which media is. I just wanted to take a moment right here to just recognize, the impact of working in media, whether it's, broadcast and news media or, creative arts. Media is, and it's ever expanding, right? It is such a huge, vibrant field. And by the way, I started my career in broadcasting. I worked in public radio very, very early on. So I was a broadcaster myself. And, the impact that, if there's one thing that all media support, that is storytelling. And we know how important storytelling is, whether it's news storytelling or, fictitious stories that help us to have more empathy and understanding for people who are unlike us. I mean, I can't even overstate how important your field is in this notion of creating positive social impact on a large scale. So thank you for everything that you all are doing in that regard. Our next slide just kind of gives a sense of how the Ignite project with the foundation in particular decides how we're going to partner with organizations. So the Ignite Impact initiative aligns with the United Nations global goals. So these are the 2030 goals, and you can see there are 17 of them. The one that we're focused on here is really about gender equity and really lifting up women, because we know, globally, that when women are thriving, families thrive, communities thrive. And so it's just exciting to have your organization be part of this bigger thing. So I hope that excites you, that your organization really does fit in to global impact. And then just very quickly, this last slide talks about, just kind of gives you an idea of social impact ecosystem. And what's kind of interesting about this is when you think about your industry and in any industry, some of you may be working in the private sector, some may be working in nonprofit or public, media is all over. And again, it just speaks to the broad impact that that your industry has in all areas of society. And just quickly before I hand it over to Brian to talk more about what coaching is, the last slide I want to show you is just the benefits of coaching. And I'm pretty sure LaTanya has already shared with you a little bit of background on coaching, but I think it's really important to just kind of reiterate before we go into all the about the benefits of coaching. And Monica already hit on some of these things, but really, it can focus on, yes, goals, but also your overall well-being, your sense of balance and purpose. I think one of the most important elements of coaching is how it helps us to connect more deeply with the truth of our own being. to be able to really trust ourselves, know ourselves, and self-awareness is really a foundation to coaching. And nothing happens. No positive change happens before we become really self-aware. And then, coaching gives us the support, the accountability, the tools, the resources to really dig in deeply. And one last thing that I want to talk about before I hand it over to Brian is we are working on lowering the coaching fee. The initial communication that went out had the low bono fee at $150 an hour. And, money is always an important issue. So I'm just putting it out there so it's not distracting to people up front, because I know it can be a barrier. So we're looking at creating a lower low bono fee, and also having a vehicle for a needs-based pro bono avenue for the coaching experience. So we're going to be sharing more information with you about that. Any questions about what I just shared before Brian takes over? All right, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. If you could go ahead and forward the slide. I think Monica knocked it out of the park earlier. I'll just tell a little bit about my background. This coaching definition, I feel, has changed over the years. So about 12, 13 years ago, I sat similar situation. It was more in person. I was working as an executive at a financial services firm, and I got called into this room to say, hey, we're going to talk about this coaching program. The definition that they had for coaching was much different than this. It was more of, hey, we're going to fix you, right? So we want you to be more like the rest of us on that executive team. And that's not what it was about whatsoever. And so what that did is actually drew me to the coaching profession. So the last 10, 11 years, I've been a professional coach. And I love that we're running programs like this so that we can really, really strive to see the benefits of a true coaching relationship. So I always say as a coach, it's just my job to really earn the right to be your partner. And when I say be a partner, be a thought partner. So to really challenge your perspectives, really challenge the way that you're thinking in a very positive way, to maybe see some things around the corner that you're not viewing, or to look at some things differently because maybe you've been stuck in old habits for quite some time. So when you start thinking about working with your coach, and Lisa was talking about this before, like Monica and the chapter in San Francisco want to make sure you get the right fit. And that's where they're coming at. They want to make sure that they're your partner to really have you in control of the agenda. And so it's going to be topics that are valuable to you, not prescribed by your coach, which once again happened to Brian all those many years ago. So I always share that because it's where my passion came from, and really going down this road and this passion for coaching. So Lisa, if you want to go to the next slide. I know Monica knocked it out of the park before, but I always want to bring this up as well as we start thinking about the differences. So when we think about mentoring, it is fantastic to have a mentor. And I would ask, like, anybody show of hands, who has a mentor right now or has had one in the past? See, Monica, I see. Okay, awesome. Fantastic, right? But when you're working with a mentor, we're really thinking about more of that primarily of professional development. They have the experience. You're really asking them some questions about, hey, what should I do in this situation? Really being able to help out. So in mentoring, they're looked at more as the expert. Consulting, we can kind of come in and start to look at things from a different viewpoint, but it's going to be more of maybe that prescription as well. We're going to come in and say, hey, we see something wrong here. Here's how you can fix that. We're looking at things like your CRM system. Hey, it needs to operate in this way. So once again, we're coming in and giving you the answer. Therapy, when we start talking about it, I think Monica was joking about it, said it wasn't therapy. I actually have some conversations that go down that line and have to stop my clients and get back to it. Because when we start thinking about therapy, that's usually when there's something, either a mental struggle or something focusing on some health concerns, things of that nature. And as a professional coach, we're not certified in those areas. So we actually say like, hey, this might be a topic that you want to talk to a therapist about, right? So we very much know, and that's why I'm so excited we can bring this program. We've been running programs like this in Southern California the last 5 or 6 years with these large organizations, and we've seen the impact that's come from it. So when we think about coaching, you're the expert. You're the person that's bringing the topics. You're the one that really sets that agenda. And then once again, your coach there to be your thought partner, really challenge and see things from a different viewpoint, a different perspective. So if we could go to the next slide, Lisa, and then we'll open it up for questions as well. What I always want to do, especially if this is your first coaching experience, I always want to set some expectations because this is new, and comes from my experience at 12, 13 years ago where I didn't know what to expect. So when we come in, anytime we're working with a group, number one is confidentiality. That is something that we stand by. That's part of the ethics of the International Coaching Federation. So all the coaches that you are assigned or get matched up with, they all understand this, meaning they're not going to go back and go to your leader or somebody else and say, hey, here's what the conversation was about. Here's what Monica was discussing in her conversation. It's 100% confidential. That way, I always say as a coach, you can show up and say the things you need to say, not what you want somebody to hear. Which, once again, two different things if you don't have that confidentiality. So I want to make sure that is clear as well. That understanding, I talked to you about it before, like as a coach, they're going to come in and really want you to set the agenda, the topics that are valuable to you. So they want to make sure that they're understanding that they're not coming in and making a prescription. They're listening to your thoughts, the areas that you really want to pay time and attention to, and they're absolutely going to help you set some priorities and set some goals moving forward around that, so you can see some measurable difference. How will we make sure that we're actually getting there? How are we making sure we're improving? And that can come quantitatively. A lot of it comes qualitatively. And your coach is going to help you really think through what that would look like to you, right? Innovation, I was talking about before. I know I'm just talking from my personal perspective. I get stuck in my old habits. And so when we come in, we start thinking about like new ways to look at different opportunities that come up that you bring in terms of topics. So what would be a new way that I would communicate? And I always say personally and professionally. So what would be a new way I would communicate with my spouse of 26 years? What would that look like? Rather than maybe Brian likes to get to the finish line and my wife likes to tell the story. So this comes up from time to time, completely unconscious. So completely have awareness around that, but things that will come up where they have that understanding, and how would you do it differently, thinking about that innovation. Accountability. Here's one thing I want to say about accountability that I really feel is important as a coach. Your coach cannot hold you accountable. So when you leave those sessions, your coach is going to help you frame that up. They're going to be that thought partner like we talked about before and support you in that. But you're really the one that designs your actions. So I've got clients that'll show up and be like, oh, Brian, I prepared for our session. Just because I knew we were going to have our session, I wanted you to hold me accountable to it. And my whole response back to that is like, that's fantastic. But what we have to do is find a way that you're going to hold yourself accountable. So that's what your coach will help you do as well. So you start to design these actions and really start to get your thoughts down. How are you going to hold yourself accountable to follow through? Because it might be a few weeks before you see your coach again. How are you going to make sure that you're going to be able to execute the work that you really want to put that time and attention to? So I always want to make sure that's what you can expect from your coach. Next slide, here's what your coach is really going to expect from you. So when we start to think about, you start to get and have that introductory conversation with your coach that you get matched up with. Number one, really thinking about that ownership. I just talked about that accountability. So if you leave and say like, this is really what I want to focus on, here's what I want to complete, your coach is really going to expect that when you come back to that next session, even if you didn't complete that, because you're not going to complete everything 100% of the time, what got in the way? What were your barriers? Let's discuss that. What pulled you away because you were so excited when we left our coaching session? That way we can start to uncover maybe some obstacles that are showing up that you aren't aware of at that time. So really taking ownership of it. I always say open mind. Like we want to make sure that once again, you come and you're ready. You want to make sure that you're talking about the things that are important to you and your development. So really have that willingness to show up, be prepared, and ready to talk about your topics. Because I'll say the one thing when I have some clients that show up and they're not prepared, we can tell right away. Because then if we have an hour together, we spend the first 15, 20 minutes. And I don't know if any of you've had this conversation with a friend or a family member of, well, what do you want to talk about? Well, I don't know, Latoya, what do you want to talk about? I don't know, what do you want to talk about? So make sure, use the time, use it as valuable as you can. These are these coaches showing up and ready to make sure that they're prepared to give you the best experience possible so that you can work towards your goals. That leads to the active participation part. Make sure you're actively participating with your coach. The way you show up is, and what's that old saying, that the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. And I think that absolutely resonates here when you're working with your coach, because once again, you're the one that's looked at as the expert. You're the one bringing the topics that are important to you rather than somebody prescribing it to you. And then the biggest one that I would say here, expect from you, is really think about that reflection piece. I know when I have a client show up, there's this excitement at times that, oh, yes, I feel like I got these 2 or 3 action items. I'm going to go conquer the world. I'm going to make sure I get this done. But then sometimes some things get in the way. Week 1, week 2, week 3, we get back together and there was no time to go back and reflect. Were you able to accomplish the things you committed to? Or if not, that's where you can get curious with your coach in that confidential manner. There's no judgment there. What got in the way? What pulled you away from what you wanted to attempt to do when we left that last coaching session? You had this energy and excitement about you. So really thinking about taking the time to reflect. I always tell my clients, like, make that time, put it in your calendar. If that's like a Friday afternoon, or if that's a Monday morning, just so that you can make sure that, say, when I show up with my coach, hey, was I able to complete the things that were really important to me? Or what were some of the things that showed up specifically so I can talk about those in my coaching session, just to help you move forward? Because that's what your coach wants to do, is that thought partner, is really to be in alignment with your goals and help you drive that to the future. And then next slide, Lisa, and then maybe we stop and think about some questions as well. Is this one, I think am I turning this one over?
Yeah, so that
No,
Monica's next. Any questions for Brian before we move forward? Any questions about the coaching process? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Okay, Monica is going to share a bit because she is, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Monica, because one of the primary roles that Brian and I have as ambassadors is finding chapters that, are looking for opportunities to serve and making those connections. So we made the connection between Monica, thank you, and the Alliance. And now Monica is going to talk a little bit about how she is going to help make connections between her chapter coaches and your members.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for having me. Just by a bit of background, I live in San Francisco, and I spent about 25 years in professional services, and the last several of them as a coach. And so I led a group at McKinsey & Company that consisted of career coaches, recruiters, and helped executives in transition. So personally, I spent a lot of time counseling folks, coaching folks, and I differentiate those in that model around just the biggest challenges as they looked for, how do I grow in my career? How do I excel? How do I have impact? And, choosing the coach was always an important thing, because the key to your personal growth is finding someone that you trust. Brian said, this is a space where you can show up as you. You don't need to perform. You don't need to tick any boxes. No one's expecting anything from you. This is for you. And wherever you are in your development, in your growth, in your goals, that coach will meet you right where that place is. And so how do you choose your coach? If we can go to the next slide, one of the things I want to underpin is all of the coaches really stand by diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. It's a core value of ICF. And they need to be trained in that. So they're doing their own personal work to embody that, as well as bringing a standard into the meetings with you. So, from whatever background that you may come from, whatever your perspectives are, your points of view, we really commit to a place where you can show up, where there's professionalism and respect for all points of views, where it's a collaborative environment. So this is, Brian alluded to, there's no counseling or telling you what to do. Sometimes we want to show up to conversation, and I know sometimes I'm like, I'm exhausted. Just tell me what you think. This is actually about a commitment to collaboration and, building together. And then there's humanity, right? We talk about, hey, I really want someone to listen, to show up, to actually be very present. But this is also beyond that, of someone who's there, who's actually kind, compassionate, respectful to you, and that's what you can expect. And then equity, really having an equitable mindset. And so as you think about selecting your coach and, kind of building that trust, you might also think about, who is that person, and what qualities do I feel comfortable with? If we go to the next slide, in terms of that, you will get a selection. So we're not just going to assign you someone, because it's really, there has to be chemistry. There has to be that trust. And so what we'll do is, based on your applications, I will collect from our chapter. We have 1,300 members in our chapter, so we're a very large organization. And so we have folks who want to volunteer their time specifically for these types of initiatives. And we have a really wide range of coaches. So the very first thing is they will all be credentialed, which means that they have gone through certification and training so that there's a level of expectation and standard as to what they have been experienced in. We have 3 different levels. You'll see the acronyms here. I'll just briefly touch on it. Working with anyone at these levels can be wonderful. The difference is when you're selecting someone is ACC is someone who's completed about 60 hours of coaching. PCC is someone who's completed 500 hours, and MCC is someone who's completed, I believe it's over 1,000, but Brian, you might correct me if it's more than that.
2,500.
500. Okay, perfect. And so, this is really just experience. And as we all know, if you go to a doctor or a dentist, someone who's got 30 years experience may or may not be a good fit for you versus someone who's got 2 years experience, right? Because people are bringing very different perspectives. And so that's why you also want to look at what are actually your pre-coaching goals and what is the experience of that person and how does it relate to you? So for example, if your goal is, hey, I'm really struggling with finances, and a lot of what I want to work through is creating an abundant mindset, then you may want to see someone who has some experience in that area more so. Versus when I was working with a lot with executives, many of them would say, how do I, I've just gotten my first C-suite role. How do I really make a step change in terms of moving from that mentality at a VP level to now an SVP level? And what does that mean for my leadership? And so that was a very different type of conversation. And so depending on what your goals are, you're going to want to see what experience or how does that person relate to that topic. Now, all coaches can relate to all kinds of topics. So I do want to say coaching tends to be whole person coaching. So you might have a particular topic, but then, when you get into it, it may go in different ways. And that's the beauty, is that coaches can really, deal with whether it's professional, personal, interpersonal, intrapersonal, right? They're skilled in that. And so what we're saying here is, as you select your coaches, just to have in mind, what are your goals? And you can ask them about that, their experience there. And then also their experience working with clients and organizations. It's not necessary that you have a coach that is an expert, for example, in the media industry, because a lot of times that pattern recognition across lots of different industries or different wide variety of people is actually what you're going to be looking for. And there may be people who are experienced in certain sectors that, that may be appealing to you because there's certain qualities that you're working through. So you'll have a chance to select your coach. And if we go to the next slide, I'll talk through a little bit of the timeline there. So applications are due, I believe, on December 8th in terms of saying, yes, I would like to participate in this program and have a coach. And then what we'll do is actually over the course of December and early January, start matching you with those coaches. Just because of the holidays, we're essentially, no one's going to be working for 2 to 3 weeks during that time. So that's why it'll be mid-January. But what I will do is I will send you 2 bios of 2 coaches that could be a good fit for you based on your application. And then what you'll do is by January 16th-ish is just go ahead and contact both of those coaches and set up a good fit call. The good fit call is about 30 minutes. It's complimentary, and that's for you to just have a conversation with the coaches and feel them out. And we'll, in a moment, talk a little bit about the types of questions you could ask. And so, around 2 weeks and try to schedule that and make that happen. And then by the end of the month, let me know which coach you'd like to work with. And then I will go ahead and let that coach know and send them whatever your pre-coaching goals are, since I would have your permission then at that time to disclose that. And then you guys are off to the races. So in early February, you start scheduling. Let's go to the next slide about the good fit call. So what is this? This is really an opportunity for you to just see what the rapport is and get a sense of this person. It may not answer all of your questions, but really the objective is to clarify a little bit and have a conversation with your coach around what are you trying to change, solve, or improve on? Like, why are you entering into this relationship? And talk about how can a coach help? So that's a conversation that you can have with the coach, and you'll have the opportunity to have that conversation with two folks. So you'll get a sense of their style and their differences. Each coach is credentialed, but they might have their own set of tools, right? They all come from different coaching schools and have different kinds of frameworks. And Brian will show one of the frameworks later, but they'll have different models. And so that might be something that you ask about, is just what is their style of coaching, or how do they approach coaching? And it's really just whatever questions you want to ask to start to build rapport with them. Most of them will be San Francisco, Bay Area based. So maybe you want someone who has a background who might have lived in the same place that you lived at some point in time, or things like this. So you can feel free to ask about their backgrounds. And then if we go to the next slide. Okay, great. So that's the end of the section. Let me just pause here though, because that was a lot of information. You will definitely get these slides. Just, are there any questions about how do you select your coach? Okay, I'll hand it back over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Monica. Before I get into this next one, we talk about the structure of the coaching process. I did ask you if you had a mentor before. How many of you had a coach before? You could raise your hand. So you got 1, 2. Okay. And Monica, yes, you're a coach. So yeah, absolutely. I know you've had a coach before. So as we started to think about it, what we wanted to put in front of you is, Monica was talking about, there's different coaching models, but want to put one in front of you that maybe you've seen before. It's called the GROW model. So if we go to that next slide, Lisa, we can really look at it. So I see some head shaking. So this is really to get you to start thinking about what Monica was talking about with your coach. So this GROW model gets into what we were talking about earlier. So the topic, you'll see that right there in the middle. What topic do you want to focus on? Remember what I talked about earlier, is you get to set the agenda. So really be prepared and really think through, especially even if you're doing that fit call. Hey, here's a few topics I have in mind. What would that coaching process look like if we were to partner together and work together, right? Then think about those goals. We were talking about it earlier, like, hey, what specifically do you want to do with that topic? What are the things that you want to do to grow and to see your skill set really go to another level? And then really getting into it. This is where that confidentiality comes in. Thinking about what is happening currently. What might be holding you back? Or if you bring a topic that maybe you've been thinking about for 6 or 12 months, what's happened that hasn't been able to get you to take action? Things like that are going to come up in the situation, right? Or it might be in the workplace, it might be in personal. Remember, this is 100% confidential. And then this is where it gets good, where that I was talking about that thought partner earlier. What are our options? Which direction do we want to go? What will be the things that we would do that would really see success in this area with this topic that you brought forward? And then I talked about it before with that responsibility, thinking about that will. Are you going to be able to, when we leave that coaching session, to be able to carry that out? And the reason I put this model, that we put this model in front, is just so that you can start thinking through what these conversations will look like. When you have these 6 sessions, how do you want to show up? You want to be prepared with that topic. Talked about that a little bit earlier. Also start to think through, like, hey, what's going on in the situation that may be holding me back or has prevented me from taking action in this area previously? That's something you can prepare for with your coach and start to think through those options. Which direction do you want to go? I know when I show up with clients, I might even say, like, hey, I know you said you've been thinking about this for 6 months. What does success look like for you? What does that look like? You might already have an idea in your head. You just haven't been able to think through the steps. So really be prepared. And I think a model like this, like I said, there's tons of different coaching models out there. I think this one's very concise. And once again, I want to put it in front of the team so that you can really start to think through, how do I want to show up? Or even, how do you want to ask some questions during that fit call as well? Right. And this is something you can share with your coach too. They should have seen this. If not, you can coach them up on it as well, as when you think of going through this coaching process. And then next slide, Lisa. This one, as we start to think through, Monica was talking a little bit earlier about, hey, what that fit call will look like. Here's what it'll look like when you start to engage with your coach. So you'll have that intake session. I always call that a discovery or an introductory conversation, right? You get to know each other. You get to ask those questions. You really get to start to get in that rhythm. And Monica was talking about before, your coach is really going to work hard to earn the trust so that you can show up in the way that you want with that confidentiality and say the things you need to say, as I was speaking about before. And then once again, as you can see here, every session, 2 through 5, you're setting the agenda. Talked about that quite a few times. And I think sometimes if you haven't experienced coaching, we want to make sure we have that discussion, because you might show up and say, all right, coach, what did you have for me today? Remember, that was when we talked about consulting, or we talked about a mentor. This, we want you to be prepared, want you ready to go. And at the end, we actually do have a progress assessment. So there'll be things that we can send out to say, hey, were you able to be successful in the things that you wanted to carry out during your time with your coach? So we'll be able to do that as well. So this is just giving you a look when you start thinking about the sessions that you'll have with your coach through that whole engagement as well.
Thanks, Brian.
Any questions about those? I'll turn it over to Lisa for see if we had any questions before we go to the next slide.
I actually have a question.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Kim Hogan. I work in public media. I have my own consulting business, and I've never had a coach before. I just wanted to explore this whole idea. I think it could be of great value, so that's why I'm here today. But
awesome.
I wanted to just find out, when you say topics, can you give me an example? Because honestly, I'm hoping for some direction, and I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. So, and great question. And I think that's where we're really starting to get you to think about, like, hey, what would I talk about? So if you want an example, I'll give you, I just got off today with a leader that I was working with, and it was, Brian, I'm not communicating effectively with my team. I'm getting ready for our annual reviews that we're ready to have, and it doesn't look like they've completed a lot of their goals. How do I want to go in and have this discussion in more of a positive way, not an accusatory way to say, why didn't you accomplish your goals, but to really get them inspired? And what would that look like going forward, to have them really track their progress month by month, rather than, hey, we set these goals in January, we're coming back in December, and we really haven't seen a lot of traction. So the leader, we were starting to talk about options. Hey, what are your options going forward? Not only with the conversation, but what would the new process look like, right? Because they've sort of created that process. So they came, and we were talking about this before, it wasn't therapy, it was more of a venting session in the beginning, right? Brian, they haven't accomplished their goals, they haven't done the things they were going to say to do. We always talk about ownership in that coaching session. So what are the things that you've enabled in that environment? And what would be the things that you would do differently? How would you communicate effectively to them? What would be the process that you would set up? How would you check in with them to see if they're actually succeeding or not and need your support? So I hope that helps, but that was a topic that this leader brought up, right? That was something that was natural to them that they were struggling with. So really start thinking about, even in your own business, if there's something that maybe you want to accomplish in 2024, what would be those 2 or 3 things that might take priority that you could really work through with your coach?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I work on my own, so I don't have a team.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's a little different. I'm looking to get out of public media, and I was thinking that this could help me transition to cable network. I'm not sure whether this is the right fit for me or not, but again, I appreciate that information.
Yeah, and Kim, I'll just say, just hearing you when you brought that up, absolutely, that's something you can discuss with your coach, right? So what will be the steps that you would need to take?
Okay.
What is inspiring you to pivot from your current role, right? Being that sole entrepreneur, I'll say it that way. That's my words, not your words, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then into this new type of role that you want to achieve. What skills might you need to acquire? Who would you reach out to see if there's a good fit for an organization that meets your values? So those are absolutely things that when you brought that forward that you could talk about with your coach, and then once again, work through those steps.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would
Thanks
just
so
add
much,
to
Brian.
that, not that
Yeah.
I have, sorry, Lisa, just to jump in there, Kim, to sort of highlight something that you said. Career transition is actually one of the really specific reasons why we are partnering with ICF, because we have so many people in our world of media who are trained. You're in public media. I happen to know, Monica Bloom comes from the world of cable, and we have so many people in the world of media that we call the world of media a really big blob, because traditional legacy radio companies now call themselves audio, and every legacy television company is now streaming. So there's not a lot of definition in our industry, which is good and bad. So it's allowing for people to move, but it's also part of what is creating confusion and sometimes, analysis paralysis. So I would say career transition is very specifically one of the reasons why we wanted to partner with ICF and give this option.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Becky. I was actually going to share the same thing, that coaches are great at helping people through transitions generally. And there are some coaches that have a niche in career transition. So, again, back to Monica's point, looking at, those specific areas of focus that the coach has will be really helpful. I also wanted to kind of underscore something that Brian was getting at, and that is, and Kim, you were talking about, needing advice, and sometimes we do need advice. But I think what you'll really value about coaching is that we kind of have this phrase, ask, don't tell, right? So we don't tell you what to do. We don't advise you. But where the value really is, when you're in that place of uncertainty, you don't want to jump directly to taking action. You really want that thought partner who's asking you those questions, like Brian was getting at, those questions that really help you think deeply and thoughtfully about what it is that you want. And then you will feel more confident if you need somebody who's more of a business advisory coach, which is a different, more of a consulting type of thing. So what Brian was getting at is, you are the expert. You're the expert of what you want, what's important to you, in the direction that you want to go. And coaches help you to have more clarity and confidence in taking those steps. So I hope that further defines what it is that we do and how we can help. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up now by sharing a little bit about what the coaching engagement looks like. Latanya, if you can move to the next slide for me. So you've been seeing this, and we've been talking about 6 coaching sessions. We can do up to 10. So it really depends on your schedule and, what your needs are, but 6 is the minimum. 10 is the maximum. And the coaching sessions will be 45 to 60 minutes each, and at mutually agreeable times. We do ask that if you have to cancel, that you do so within 36 hours before. And we do need all the sessions, Latanya, if this is correct, completed by June 1st. In order to kind of wrap up the project, because there's a number of other things going on within the organization. All the coaching sessions will happen virtually, probably on Zoom. But again, I suppose if you and your coach had a different, mutually agreed upon platform, that would be fine. And there'll be approximately 2 to 3 weeks between each session. And that time is really important because I think it was Brian earlier was talking about the reflection time, right? It's like there are going to be so many things, insights that you have during these coaching sessions that you're going to need to process, think more about, and then take action. So then when you come back in 2 weeks, you can kind of do a report back and kind of build each time. But the time in between the coaching sessions is just as important as the coaching sessions themselves. And as Brian said, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out. Because there often are, reflection practices, or, you'll make commitments to yourself at the end of each session so that you have very, very clear action steps that you want to take. And then you hold yourself accountable, right, at the next session. So that is how we're structuring the engagement. And we do have a few next steps, but let me just pause there, see if anybody has any questions. This is really the end of our content for today. We want to make sure that you leave here feeling like you have a really clear understanding of the value. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask.
I have a question. Is the December 8th date a hard and fast date? Because I'm bringing this information back to my group, and I'm with Graham Media Group. And so I didn't specifically come on this call for myself, although I'm very interested now. But we've got others in the organization that I was considering, and they know nothing about this, right? I'm just kind of exploring it for the team. So I don't know if I can get this vetted through my group and applications completed by December 8th. So that was kind of the question that, is there any flexibility off of that, or?
I'll ask LaTanya and Monica, who are really the team leads, to address that.
No, this is my perspective, and this is LaTanya speaking. So I'm flexible because the point is for us to help people. And if we have people that are interested and need an additional week, to me, I am available and willing to work through whatever logistics we need to work through to slide them in. So Monica, do you see any challenges with a 1-week extension?
No, I see no challenges at all with a 1-week extension. And I'll speak for myself, even if there was a last minute, in early January, because folks over the holidays may consider and really say, I really want this, because the holidays is a time of deep reflection. I'm also open to that, because what I will be doing is collecting on our side, the coaches who are volunteering. So I will have that ready in January. And so we will have more coaches than coachees. So if more coachees showed up in January, that would be okay. Because as long as we sort of have it by mid-January, the good fit calls start, that works.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Also, is this kind of and I almost hate to say it this way, like a one and done, is only for this period of time, or is this going to be an extending kind of a project, or like after you get through this one session in January, in June, then you're going to pick up again, or?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. If there was an opportunity to extend the program for another, if we would have to go through an application process to do it. It was a pretty involved process, right, LaTanya? Right? There's
Yes.
working, getting this all set up with ICF, and the other potential is that if a person really has a great connection with that coach, they certainly could, talk to that coach about having an ongoing relationship. So I think there are opportunities there, depending on, how things go and how we move forward.
Yeah, I would jump in there and agree, Julie, from an AWM perspective. Our goal was to introduce coaching to our membership for those who don't know about it. Obviously, there are a lot of people in our membership who do. I mentioned earlier, mentions regularly Annie Howell, who's the chair of the AWM board, is an ICF certified coach. So if there is an opportunity for us to continue to partner with, ICF or ICF Foundation through this program, whatever it is, our goal is to bring resources to our membership. And we believe coaching is a valuable one. We're going to find ways to bring resources to members, whatever that looks like.
Great.
Yeah,
And I can also say that Monica Bloom is on our board. And so in good news, she's going to be part of it and can help push it. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I don't want to step in it and speak for Monica and Lisa. I know we can coordinate calendars, but Julie, depending on how large your group is, and if they wanted to attend going through this PowerPoint for a half hour, 40 minutes, I know I can donate some time and make sure to have that, just so there's that clarity that we wanted to offer to all of you as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And again, this is the first I'm hearing even of the cost. So it's $150 at the max per session.
That's correct. And we're working on having a lower session per session fee, and also having an avenue for people to apply for free pro bono coaching on a needs based.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of put it all in perspective. So when I go back to our CEO, right, and then I'm like, kind of saying, okay, and then we're trying to identify who we'd like, and kind of getting all the details. So thank you.
Absolutely. And, you may find, because, there is such a thing as team coaching as well. If, you have team members who go through it and you find, coaches that you really enjoyed working with, you could always hire those coaches to work with you as a team. That's a whole different, that's a whole different thing of coaching. But in terms of like really up-leveling your outcomes as an organization and employee well-being and team cohesion and all of that, there are a lot of opportunities there. That is obviously outside of this program, but I just share that because, there is so much to coaching, just beyond the one-on-one experience that we're having here. Great. Okay. So just to wrap up, next steps, of course, are the applications. And you just heard that there's, some flexibility with that. So that's great. And then you'll be getting more information through Latanya, but Monica and Latanya are going to be working very, very closely together. So Latanya will be sending communication to you, and she's still going to be remaining your key contact. But there's more information that's going to be coming around all of those steps that we talked about and helping you get matched with your coach. So, Latanya, I will hand it back over to you or Becky to close us out.
I just want to thank you all for being here today. This is a great opportunity, and we will definitely encourage you to share the information with colleagues or other people that are members of AWM. And if they're not a member, we can definitely connect them with Amy Burton from our team and get them connected. So if you all have any questions, you all can reach out to me anytime via email. I will make sure I send out my contact information, but just glad that you all are here today. Becky, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nothing else. Thank you all for hopping on. Definitely spread the word. Julie, I love that you're on here on behalf of a company. Just encourage all of you all to spread the word about this program. As Latanya said, we'll send out the slides. We'll have email. And I'm also very glad to hear that we have a little wiggle room on timing, because I imagine there's going to continue to be interest. So thank you all. Thank you, Lisa, Monica, and Brian for joining and giving us so much of your time.
We're very excited to be partnering with all of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody have a great afternoon. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.